Economic crisis. Although the American economy prospered in the late 1920s, there were huge inequalities when it came to income and imbalances between actual investment and stock market speculation. Experts didn't consider any concerns about a collapse in the stock market when there are inflations, such as the value of shares traded on the exchanges, which went from 27 billion to 87 billion. When prices began to fall in the American stock market, many people started selling, which managed to wipe out investors and speculators. When the financial crisis in America spread, it caused crisis internationally. The loans to European countries from American bankers began to be recalled as crisis happened. Europeans couldn't borrow any money, so they began to withdraw their savings from banks, which then triggered the collapse of the largest bank in Austria in 1931. Now, as businessmen attempted to receive money to pay their dues by selling industrial goods and agricultural commodities, between 1929 and 1933, world output of goods dropped by 38%. The United States began to cut back its international lending and also place high tariffs, which limited international trade, although countries and economic leaders failed to control and stabilize the stock market crash. A recovery started to be seen in 1933.
Mass unemployment. Government spending led to the rise of mass unemployment in Germany and the US, as both suffered from 33% unemployment. This led to 14 million people being out of work. The only way for the economy to break into the cycle of decline was by pumping money into the economy. Mass unemployment caused social problems as many demanded unemployment benefits or public aid to fight the situation. Young individuals had to postpone marriages and birth rates fell quickly. Soon people became suicidal and mentally ill due to the rise of poverty. By 1932, people protested, and a similar reaction occurred around the Western civilization. This required a strong reaction from the government.
The New Deal in the U.S. The Depression was a huge turning point in American history. President Hoover and his staff did not take it seriously until England's market failed and greatly impacted the U.S. between 1929 and 1931. Factory numbers dropped by 50%. President Roosevelt won the election and wanted to reform capitalism and keep government intervention for the economy. Roosevelt then dropped the value of the dollar so that the farmers could begin profiting from their crops. Roosevelt created the National Recovery Administration, which was declared unconstitutional in 1935. 1/5 of the nation was employed by WPA. The government then started focusing on reducing wealthy privileges. But even at the recovery height, there was still 7 million unemployed, and when the war started in 1939, rose back to 10 million people.
The Scandinavian response. The Scandinavian countries responded most successfully to the Great Depression. As social democrats became the largest in the 19th century, socialism grew in Scandinavia. Now labor leaders and capitalists were inclined to work. Socialists reacted to the crisis in 1929. Scandinavian governments increased in old age pensions, unemployment, and insurance. Now subsidized housery and maternity allowances were created and placed on the rich. Recovery and reform in Britain and France. Britain recovery was fast. The production rates actually grew higher than before in 1932. Reaction gradually reoriented as there was an establishment of protective tariffs in 1932. Automotives and electronics grew in demand afterwards. France was then less industrialized as the Depression came. The Depression caused France's government to become less stable. Communists, socialists, and radicals were the clear victors. This caused the wealthy to strip their money and increased financial crisis. Thus, they were on the verge of civil war.